Good evening, everybody. This is Seth Engelborg, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We're meeting today, Thursday, October 2nd, 5 p.m. in a hybrid fashion with some people physically present in the Public Safety Facility Room and some on Zoom for the meeting of the Conservation Commission. The first thing we're going to do is establish a quorum of members. So members, when you hear your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mike Mazzarelli.
Here.
Archie Turcott.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
Tim Brain.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Here.
Linda Williams.
Here.
And Seth Engelborg is here. Next, we'll go on to the continuances for our agenda. We have the following. Under public hearing, notice of intent, no waiver required. We have Maloney at 15 Old North Wharf, SC 48 3924. And under notice of intent, waiver required, pre-January 1st submissions. We have Sconset Beach Preservation Fund, 59 through 83 Baxter Road, SC 48 3759. Continued till October 23rd. We have the Summer House of Nantucket Realty Trust, 10 and 16 Ocean Avenue. Continued to, I think, October 23rd. I don't think we have a meeting on the 16th. And we have West Assured LLC, 62 Winoma Way, SC 48 3869, continued till November 6th. Then under notice of intent waiver required, we have Robert F. Greenhill Revocable Trust, 16 Hoyks Hollow Road, SC 48 3917, continued till October 23rd. We have Nantucket Islands Land Bank, 2 Massasoit Bridge Road, SC 48 3925, continued to October 23rd. And the land bank at 39 and 41 Almanac Pond Road, SC 48 3926, continued to October 23rd. I believe that's it, unless we have any last minute continuations, Jeff?
I think that's it.
All right. At this point, commissioners, we need a motion to accept the agenda. Would somebody like to make that motion?
Good move, Mr. Chairman. A second.
Thank you, Mike and Linda, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll move on to public comment. This is for items not on today's agenda. We'll be using the select board's established protocols for public comment, limiting comment to 3 minutes or less, and not engaging in substantive deliberation, just taking comments for future action. At this point, if anybody physically present in the room wishes to comment, please approach one of these microphones. And if you're on Zoom, raise your virtual hand. Seeing not, we'll move on to public hearing. We'll begin under section A, notice of intent, no waiver required. We have one in this category, which is at Coda LLC at 42 Shimma Pond Road. Do we have a file number for this?
We do not.
Okay. So the procedure that we've adopted is to only open these applications if there's interest from commissioners or the public. Commissioners, would you like to hear this application?
No.
Would any members of the public like to hear this application? Okay, so Mr. Gasparo, would you like to continue this until October 23rd?
Yes, please.
Okay, this will continue till October 23rd.
Thank you.
So now we'll move on to notice of intent waiver required, section C. We'll begin with Sanctity Golf Club, Inc. at 18 Hoyks Hollow Road, SC 48 3911, represented by Leo Asadorian. Good evening.
Good evening. Since the last meeting, we did hear back from Lisa, and they deemed it a no take. And they did comment regarding the plantings, but I think if you had a chance to review Ben Shampoo's replanting plan, it was pretty thorough on the type of plants that were going to be installed on the site after the buildings were demoed in a phased fashion. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing new beyond that. And I don't think we had any comments from the commission on the past hearings at all regarding the demolition. We did, as I said earlier, try to make sure that the buildings out there, some of them are a little bit older, make sure that we didn't have any asbestos or any other materials in there that were going to cause issues with the C&D plant on the island. So again, my conversations with Natural Heritage was pretty straightforward, and they did like what Ben had put together as far as a restoration plan.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Questions or comments from members of the public? Jeff, do we have everything we need to close this application?
Yes, you do.
Leo, would you like to close this application?
Yes, I would.
Is there a motion to close?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda and Joe, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to Frederick C. Slater, 2012 Revocable Trust at 113 Eel Point Road, SE 483923, represented by Arcus Barrow. Commissioner Miserelli and myself are recused from this application. So Linda, you'll need to chair.
Okay. This is Frederick Slater, 2012 Revocable Trust, 113 Eel Point Road, SE 483923. Representing the applicant is Art Gasparo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the second public hearing. We continued to wait for a response from Natural Heritage, which we have received. Brief refresher, this is for the planting of beach grass on the coastal bank, as well as to remove some of the core envelope that had been installed from the abutting property onto this property. And that's really the extent of the application. It will need to be a conditioned approval that from Natural Heritage in terms of time of year restrictions and protections for piping plovers. And other than that, I don't have anything further, and I'm happy to address anything that may be outstanding from the commission.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission members?
Nope.
Okay. Any public comment? Jeff, do you see anybody up there?
No, I don't have anyone. I do have a quick comment though.
Okay.
I was just going to let everyone know, typically when we get conditions, like the time of year and pullover restrictions from Heritage, as part of the order, we just attach the physical determination letter from Heritage in its entirety so people can see the context. So that would be conditions included in your conditions with their letter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have everything we need?
Yes.
Okay. Art, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Was that Joe?
That was
Yes.
Joe.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
That was Tim.
Okay, that was Tim. Okay, all those in favor, RJ,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and myself with Mike and Seth recused.
Thank you.
Thank you. So while we wait for our chairman to return.
Thank you, Linda. All right, we'll move on now in the agenda to Ripley at 92 Washington Street, represented by Leo Asadorian.
Sorry, we had a typo. This is being represented by Jack Vaccaro.
Okay, Mr. Vaccaro, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jack Vaccaro from Epsilon Associates, and yes, I will be presenting this evening. Leo is in the audience as well. Leo prepared the plan for this project, so if there's any questions related to the site, specific to the engineering aspects, then Leo can certainly address. But this is actually a property that the commission is already pretty familiar with. This is a redevelopment project that was actually before you in 2023. It's an existing developed residential property with a house, garage, and shed. The Conservation Commission reviewed the redevelopment that consisted of just the removal and replacement of the house. As I said, in 2023, that was reviewed under DEP file number SE 483662, and an order of condition was issued in March 14th of 2023 for that work. So that order of conditions is in hand and remains in effect, but that work was approved under that order, was never executed. So the NOI that you had before you this evening, as I said, is a new redevelopment plan. It also proposes the removal and replacement of the existing residence, but also the removal and replacement of two other structures that are on the property. It'd be a detached garage with a studio above and a separate shed. Mr. Chairman, would it be all right if I shared my screen?
Yes, that's okay. Jeff, if you need to provide access, go ahead.
If it's difficult or a problem in any way, I don't necessarily have to, but I thought it might be helpful.
Are you hoping to put the plans up or what?
Yeah, I've got some photographs I wanted to share with the commission as well, but
You should be able to share.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Vaccaro, go ahead.
let's see. All right, now I've got, bear with me just a second, I want to get the slideshow going here. Okay, is everyone seeing this all right?
Yeah, we can see your presenter notes, so you might want to change the display settings, but
Oh, sorry about that. There, is that better?
yes.
Good, all right. So just a couple of photos of the site, one taken along the bulkhead at the rear of the property. That basically, in this photograph, I have my back to the rear of the Great Harbor Yacht Club. And yeah, looking right down the face of the bulkhead that divides the coastal beach from the rear lawn area, which has a narrow strip of landscape plantings along the edge of the bulkhead. So yeah, you can see laminate of the bulkhead, really, site is essentially level. As I said, there's three structures on the property, and this entire property, of course, is located within special flood hazard zones. So the most seaward portion of the site is within the velocity zone, and the remainder of the site located within zone AE elevation 9. There are no rare species habitats present on the site, but of course there is rare species habitat out over the watershed of Nantucket, which we will not obviously be going into for this project. So the project, as I said, includes removal of all existing structures and replacement. The existing conditions right now, you may have noticed that in the sketch that was submitted on the cover of the NOI, the garage is actually on the right as you're facing the property from Washington Street, and the shed is on the left. And we're proposing to basically do-si-do those two structures. The shed will be reconstructed on the right-hand side of the lot, and the garage will be shifted to the left. The detached garage will include, as it does now, a second-story guest living space. That living space and the living space for the proposed house will, of course, be up above the flood elevation, BFE +2, which will be, put the first floor elevation slightly above 11 feet. The house will be on pile foundation to achieve that elevation. The garage will be on a simple slab with the, as I said, the second floor elevation above the flood zone. So additional site disturbances associated with excavations for the installation of buried utilities, water, electric, and sewer will occur, and a new driveway entrance will be provided to create a safe means of access from Washington Street Extension. And this new driveway will be lined with cobbles and surfaced with permeable crushed shells, similar in composition to the existing driveway. In terms of impacts to the resource areas, it's really just limited to the extent of the disturbance within land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is estimated about 8,600 square feet of that resource area. Just a little bit here about compliance with the performance standards. Of course, there are no performance standards for this resource area that apply under the State Wetland Protection Act. But under the local bylaw, there are performance standards. And basically, these are those performance standards, the 6 that are on the screen right now. So this project does satisfy each of these performance standards. Basically, by raising the house up on piles, you're improving the site's ability to handle the flooding events that would periodically occur at the site. Where I think it's interesting to point out, it's really under item 4 here, that the project, under your performance standards, the project cannot conflict with the Nantucket Coastal Resiliency Plan. And I'm sure you're all aware that the town of Nantucket has been working diligently to look at vulnerable areas of the town and coming up with some conceptual ideas that could address projected sea level rise in these areas, including downtown area. This area of Washington Street Extension, there is thought that perhaps in the coming years that the elevation of that roadway should be raised by, I believe it's 3 feet. And the proposed redevelopment would in no way conflict with that, the ability of the town to raise that elevation. There is ample space on the site to provide any adjustments to the grading for the approaches to the garage and the parking areas that are being provided. All the other performance standards are pretty much, rote. Of course, no swimming pool is proposed, no on-site sewage, wastewater disposal is proposed. The best management practices for landscape fertilizer uses on Nantucket Island. The owner acknowledges these and is willing to comply with the recommendations in that document with respect to the use of fertilizers. So the long and short of it is that the project does satisfy each of these performance standards. Now, because the existing house is within 50 feet of the bulkhead, in fact, is entirely within the resource area of land subject to coastal storm flowage, it's not possible to provide the 50-foot setback that for a structure-free buffer zone that would be applied under the under your regulations. So, the Nantucket Conservation Commission has determined that maintenance of a 25-foot undisturbed buffer and a 50-foot structure-free buffer zone protects most wetland resource areas from adverse impacts related to development within buffer zones. And recent revisions to the Nantucket Weather Protection Bylaw regs further emphasize the restriction against structures within 50 feet of resource areas. That's been made very clear. But we feel that justification in this case is provided. Basically, the the project is not going to impact the interests identified in the bylaw and will in fact improve the resiliency of the property and adjacent structures. Also, the property will provide long-term net benefits to the resource area by bringing the property up to current state and local building code standards relative to construction in the flood zone. It will enhance the ability of the resource area to provide the critical functions of storm damage prevention, resiliency, and flood control. And as I said, the entire site is located within the resource area, so it's just not possible to provide the 50-foot setback that would typically be required. And, you know, I think it's important to point out the obvious that this is an existing structure. The new structure is no closer to the harbor than what is presently there, as was the proposal on the first redevelopment project that you've already reviewed and approved. Not getting any closer to the harbor, but maintaining that footprint. So there is a certain element of grandfathering that we hope that the Conservation Commission will recognize in granting this waiver. So that's my brief presentation, and I'd like to just stop there and address any questions that the commission might have. Thank you.
Thank you. You can pause or stop the screen share, please.
Will do.
Linda, go ahead.
We have the ability. So my understanding is you're wiping out all the structures that are on the property now, correct?
That's correct.
Are you
That's
moving
right.
them or demolishing them?
They'll be raised and removed.
Okay, we do have the ability at the Concom to require that you get through the HDC first. Have you gotten through the HDC on the demo move as well as the new structures?
Yes, we have, and the approvals were included in the notice of intent.
Okay, so just want to make sure everything is done, both on and off. I think that was my only question. And you're raising about it, you're obviously coming up to the floodplain, you're on piers, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, 14 piers.
Okay, so it's going to be considerably higher than the house now, which is at grade.
Correct. It'll be about 6 feet of clearance, I believe, from the bottom of the structure to grade.
Okay, that's all I need. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Other commissioners? RJ, go ahead, then Mike.
Just to clarify, so this structure is going to be higher. Is the square footage going to be any different or for these three structures?
I don't believe so, but I don't have that information in front of me. We can clarify that for you if you'd like.
Yes, please, at some point, do a calculation and provide that in writing to the commission.
Of course.
Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jack, I don't know if I misheard or just misunderstood, but you were talking about the garage, studio, and the shed flip-flopping, but I'm assuming this is the plan as you would like it presented?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so the shed and the garage are in the right place on the plan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other commissioners? Okay, I have a whole slew of questions and comments. All right, so the first is because of the waiver that was asked for, no adverse impacts, no reasonable alternatives, that requires a written alternatives analysis, which is not included in this packet and not really justified in your oral testimony either. You just said that you think there's nothing else that's possible, but we are required to get a delineation of all the options. So please do that. The second is the plan of record shows the 50-foot and 100-foot buffers, but even in your presentation, you've realized that we've since changed the performance standards for the buffer zone to coastal bank. And not only is structure not allowed in the 50-foot buffer, but structure is not allowed in the 75-foot buffer without mitigation. So no 75-foot buffer is shown on this plan. I understand that you're asking for a waiver, but we still need a updated plan with that buffer zone line delineated to have the information required before this commission. The third thing is in reference to the land subject to coastal storm flowage, the performance standard 4 that you talked about, that doesn't allow building upon areas subject to coastal storm flowage, sea level rise, or structural damage, and then does reference the coastal resiliency plan. It was my understanding that when we put this change in here, that part of the reason to do that was to actually seek advice from the CRAC and the staff working on that plan related to applications like this. So obviously CRAC is an advisory committee to the select board, not directly to us, but I think they should be asked to provide advice on these projects. So I would direct our Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee member, Tim, to bring this project to CRAC at the next meeting, or at least to email it over to be scheduled for a future meeting to see if the applicant's representative's claims align with what that committee thinks. And then the last is, what was it? Oh yeah, the last was just trying to seek some clarification on like utilities. So I see the house and the garage studio and the shed are delineated on the plan, but we don't see anything about mechanicals or utilities or tanks or anything like that. So we are required to make sure that those, aren't buried or in an area that would cause impacts. So if you could provide additional details about whether those will be within the house or in wherever they will be, we just need update on the plans. That's all my questions and comments at this time. Commissioners, anything else? Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Okay. Tim, are you willing to bring this to CRAC for us?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Could I ask, Mr. Chairman, when the next meeting of CRAC will be?
Tim, would you answer that?
It's the 14th.
Okay, so it would conceivably, this could be considered by CRAC prior to the continued.
Yeah, I
It
think
would
so.
be prior to our next meeting, yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all very reasonable requests, and we'll work on getting you the information you've asked for, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Unless anyone else has comments, Mr. Vaccaro, would you like to continue to October 23rd?
Yes, please.
This will continue to October 23rd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. And we'll move on now to amended orders of condition. We have two. The first is Purcell, 32 Dukes Road, SE 48 3904, represented by Joe Topham. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman,
Good evening.
let me know when you're ready.
We are ready for you.
Okay, so you all about a year ago approved this shed in this location, and we're just looking for some place to like store outside stuff like bikes and such that day to day they can pull in and out. So what we're looking for is a tiny little space off the existing basement access that would connect to the shed area. So it would be underground. You wouldn't see it. It'd kind of be like a three-sided enclosure, just so we can have it stored. Really nothing more than that. But the head space, I won't be able to stand up there, but my clients are thankfully shorter, so they'll be able to get in and out and up and down from that area. So we were just looking for this little bit of underground storage that we would hope you permit. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing not. Jeff, do we have all the requisite information to close this hearing?
Yes.
Joe, would you like to close?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to close?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Second.
Linda and Mike for the second by roll call vote. Mike Misrelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. And we'll move on to Pops Lane Holdings LLC, or Pops Lane's Holdings Trust at 3 Pops Lane. SC
I'm
40
accused from this, Mr. Chairman.
I'm aware. SC 483830, represented by Brian Madden with Commissioner Williams recused. Brian, good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants. This is an amendment request to an order of conditions that was issued in November 2024. What was originally approved was a much larger project, which include demolition or removal of the existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling and other appurtenances. Through the HTC review process, there's been substantive changes. The dwelling is no longer proposed to be demolished or removed off. It's going to be retained, and there are some proposed additions being added to it, along with some deck reconfigurations and expansions. The pool has been relocated. But the limit of work has remained the same. There's no changes there. And all structural elements remain outside the 50-foot buffer zone. Some of the subsurface infiltration has been updated accordingly. But the structural components in the 100-foot buffer zone have significantly been reduced. What was originally approved was about 5,117 square feet in the 100-foot buffer zone of structure. And what is being currently proposed with the modified project is 2,174. So that's over a 2 times a reduction in the structural footprint. And be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Yes, please approach the microphone, introduce yourself for the record with your name and any connection you may have to the project, and then feel free to make your comment.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Hendrickson. My husband, John, and I own 341 Nantucket Road to the west of 3 Pops Lane. We filed an abutters objections and concerns last week, which was distributed to the commissioners. The Concom's order of conditions issued in November 2024 was based on a completely different site plan than the one being considered today. The HDC rejected those initial plans in April of this year and required the applicant to submit revised plans as a new business application. One of the important differences is that in November of last year, the Concom did not have to consider the pool because it was outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So the pool was never even part of the original order of conditions. Now, under the new plans, the pool is inside the 100-foot buffer zone and subject to Concom jurisdiction for the first time. We'd also point out that the site plan is missing the 75-foot buffer zone line. So it's not clear if the pool or a portion of the pool might even be within the 50 to 75-foot buffer zone. The pool equipment has also been relocated inside the 100-foot buffer zone. So it was misleading for LEC to state in its cover letter that the approved pool has been relocated within outer 100-foot buffer zone. We don't know what LEC means by within outer, but the pool and pool equipment has been relocated to inside the 100-foot buffer zone. And the pool and pool equipment has not been approved by the Concom or the HDC. The LEC cover letter also states, quote, all structural elements remain outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. This is not accurate. There are multiple structural elements, including the pool, pool equipment, addition to the main house, decking, fire pit, and other elements that are now located inside the 100-foot buffer zone. It's clear this application should not be just an amendment to the original order of conditions issued last year. This should be a new order of conditions and subject to the new 2025 wetlands regulations. The new submission should also include the 75-foot buffer zone for proper Concom review. If the Concom proceeds with an amendment, we urge the Concom to require the applicant to locate the pool and pool equipment outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. There are critical environmental questions around these new plans. Risks to the coastal bank and salt marsh from excavation for the pool, basement, and other structures. Drainage, discharge, erosion, groundwater issues. We urge the Concom to require the applicant to retain an expert to opine on the environmental impact of these new plans. We respectfully also ask the Concom to retain its own independent expert to complete an analysis. We all need to be assured that the fragile environment of Nantucket's Hither Creek is carefully protected. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Commissioners, any thoughts or questions related to that? Mike, go ahead.
I think it's very reasonable to ask for the 75-foot. We just asked for it on the previous application, so I'm assuming Brian wouldn't have a problem with that. And then on the, Brian, do you want to clarify the location of the pool, please?
Well, let me talk about the 75-foot buffer zone first, because there is a key, but a little bit of a specific distinction. So the new regulations apply to notices of intents and requests for determination of applicability. They don't apply to amended orders of conditions request. When there's a request for an amended order of conditions, we judge that application on the regulations that were in place at the time the original order was approved. So in this case, not showing a 75-foot buffer zone is entirely reasonable. I hear that the abutter would like the applicant to submit a new notice, which if they want to, they can. It's clear that they've submitted this amended order for a reason, but if we were to receive a new notice, then they would have to go through that process. We have the authority as a commission to decide if a new notice is required or not. You know, just like when someone files a minor mod, we can say no, an amendment is required, or if someone files an amended order, we can say no, a new notice is required. But we would have to have a specific finding proving that there's a reason for that in the performance standards. Does that make sense? Okay, Mr. Madden, you can answer the other question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I think, you know, we have gone over that question about, you know, previously approved projects predating January 1st, 2025. And I think this project obviously fits an amendment request to a T. Again, it's a much scaled back project with a huge structural reduction than what was originally approved, which did include on the plan of record the proposed pool. There was a condition added into the order of conditions because of the pool at the time was just outside the 100-foot, that no, the pool shall not be drained or discharged into an area within Concom jurisdiction. You know, possibly this project could have qualified for a minor modification, but I felt it was appropriate to file it as an amendment request to enable the commission to add additional pool conditions with the revised location of the proposed pool, which is outside the 75-foot buffer zone for clarity purposes. Again, significant structural reduction here. For clarification purposes, all structural elements are outside the 50-foot, but there are some additional structures being proposed outside the 100-foot. Apologies for that statement, which was not clear. Hopefully that clarifies things. But again, the limit of work hasn't changed here, and it's a much reduced project than what was previously approved.
Thank you. And just, I'll make a few more clarifications. So in relation to some of the elements that the abutter mentioned, things like fire pits would be considered structural, but they would be considered structural under the old regulations or the new regulations, but as long as they're outside the area where no structure is allowed, we generally don't really have any say there. And also, people can have differences of opinion about whether you think it's better to have a pool at the 100-foot buffer zone line or the 99-foot buffer zone line. But if it is within the 100-foot buffer, we are able to have much more stringent conditions on that pool than if it's outside. If it's outside, we're only really able to discuss where the drainage goes. If it's inside, we're able to discuss everything that happens at the pool: maintenance, cleaning, inspections, etc. So my opinion is actually, if it's outside the 75, but it's inside the 100, it might even be a little bit better for the commission. But that's just my personal thought. So with that, other commissioners, questions or comments? Yeah, RJ, go ahead.
So I do think that this is a better project in applying our standard pool conditions, pumping it out, what have you, will be sufficient.
Okay, anyone else? All right, any other members of the public wishing to weigh in? So before we move towards closure, we did change our procedures. Prior to January 1st, we closed and issued amendments at the same time, but now we close them and then we'll issue them later. So there will be a discussion about added conditions in the public meeting. Jeff, do we have everything we need to close?
Yes, you do.
Brian, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close?
Motion.
Thank you, John.
Motion to close.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Planowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Nay.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries 5 in the affirmative, 1 opposed, and Commissioner Williams recused.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. So now we'll move on to amended orders of conditions waiver required. We have Third Point Holdings LLC at 39 Quays Road, SE 48 3806, represented by Art Gasparo. Art, hello again.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an amended order of conditions for residential redevelopment project that, similar to the last application, I believe reduces the scope in that the approval had been to relocate and renovate the existing structures. I think probably most likely have replaced at least one of them, new foundations. And instead, the project is now going to be a renovation in place of the structures and reducing the scope there. So what we've included is I was going to do an overlay with both sets of conditions, but the plan got quite cluttered. So we included the previous approval as well as what you see on the screen now is in the lighter gray, the existing structures, which would be renovated, and then in red are the proposed features, if you will. And so there's an existing porch that a balcony is proposed above within the footprint of that existing structure. And then the only piece that projects beyond that is a wraparound step where there's a single step as part of the project is to remove the railings from that deck and porch. And so they're hoping to have a stone step that wraps around so that you don't have that drop to grade from that porch. And other than that, they kept any work outside of, and that's within an existing lawn area behind a armored coastal bank. So again, we don't believe there's any adverse impact to the protected interests. On the west side of the house, they're proposing a dry laid stone patio outside of the 25-foot buffer. And then the other elements are to revise the deck and steps on the east side. Again, that's within the footprint of the existing stairs. It's a reconfiguration there. And then outside of the 50-foot, but there's also a vegetated wetland across the street. They're proposing to renovate or revise the rehab, I think is probably the best word for the driveway. Some stepping stones and things of that nature. And then we would be putting in a microfast system to retrofit the existing septic system. So again, the limit of work has not changed from the previous approval. And I believe that project represents a significant reduction in overall scope and activity at the site and meets all of your performance standards. I'd be happy to address any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners? RJ, go ahead.
I do not want to see the privet hedge within the buffer zone to the BVW. I mean, I don't love it beyond the coastal bank, but if it's within our jurisdiction, I don't want to see privet getting planted. It's enough of a problem for us as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. We can condition this to have all native species, and that would eliminate the privet. And the applicant could do a hedge of some other sort. Other commissioners? Okay. All right, so if I am correct here, the additional aspect you're seeking a new waiver for is just the stone step, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I see on the plan that this proposed to be a 13-foot wide stone step is,
No, 13-inch.
13-inch. Oh, it's really small. I was gonna say a 13-foot is 13-inch, okay. So, sounds good. All right.
You need a big machine to move that thing.
Okay. So is there any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing not. Jeff, do we have everything we need to close?
Yes, you do.
All right, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Is there a motion to close?
So
So
moved,
moved.
Mr. Chairman.
A second.
Thank you, Mike and Linda. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plendowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. And now we'll move on to the public meeting. We'll begin with orders of conditions and amended orders of conditions, no waiver required. Jeff was very kind to print these out in paper today. That's nice.
Well,
So,
it's kind of a last minute feeling, so.
well, I like it. I know it's maybe not as sustainable as the email, but it's easier for us. So the first that we have is Purcell, 32 Dukes Road, SC 483904. Do you want to give us a brief overview of the findings here?
Sure, so 3904, again, we only added on, sorry, this is the amended order, so we only added on to the findings that we were adding on to go in with that crawl space shed. We didn't have any other additional conditions to add on there either.
Did you want to put it up on the screen? I have a copy of it, but do you think you need to do that?
Yes, you're just gonna have to give me a minute here.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm rusty.
Well, that's what you get for missing all these meetings and lounging at home.
I'm not missing them.
There's no change. I mean, it's good in practice to get the orders on the screen, but there's no change in the conditions here. It's just the change of the date amended, the plan of record, and it's the permit overview. That's it here.
There you go.
There you go.
Commissioners, any questions, comments, additions?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve as drafted, approve the amended order of conditions as drafted?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Is there, thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
If you'd like, I even have those to sign if you want.
Yes, we would like that. for
We'll do
sure.
that. We'll catch up with Linda later.
Okay. And next is Pops Lane Holdings Trust, 3 Pops Lane, SC 483830 with Linda Williams recused. Jeff, if you get this one on the screen, and then this is another amended order of conditions. Can you give us the overview of this one?
So we'll add it on the bottom again. This has been to reflect the HDC approvals, and the existing house will be renovated, the pool reduced in size, and the appurtenance relocated. So it's memorializing the new plan of record. In effect, I know from our discussion, we had that original condition 20, that the pool should not be drained or discharged into any area within commission jurisdiction. Kind of from that discussion, it seems we want to add our standard pool conditions as
Yes.
well.
The full suite, yeah.
I don't have those handy right at my fingertips, but if you give me 60 seconds, I might be able to.
We could do that, or we could come back to this later, or if it gets real bad, we can hold it over to the next meeting.
I probably can track it down pretty fast, but I certainly don't want to hold up progress. Maybe if we could come back to it in a couple of minutes, that would be.
Okay. We will revisit Pops Lane when we have those conditions in front of us. So the next one is for amended orders. Our next one is Sanctity Golf Club, Inc. at 18 Hoyks Hollow Road, SC 483911. This is an order of conditions. I'll put that up on the screen and give the general overview of that.
Sure. So this was the Sanctity Head Golf Club's project to start that kind of measured retreat. So it's just the further removal of the structures. We kind of our standard fill conditions because there's probably going to be some fill needed to replace some of those. And then a condition that during demolition, activity the contractor shall designate an employee on site to monitor and contain debris, and then from the resource area in the buffer zone.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments, additions?
Is there a letter from National Heritage?
Yes, there is, and it will be
Attached,
attached.
yeah.
Yep,
to
we always
this
attach them in full.
Order in entirety. If not, is there a motion to approve and issue the order of conditions as drafted?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll take Joe for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. We will sign that as well. And we'll move on to Frederick C. Slater, 2012 Irrevocable Trust, 113 Eel Point Road, SC 483923. I'm recused, as is Mike, so Linda, you're gonna need to chair this one here as well.
Okay, you want to get that one up on the screen?
Yep. 1 second.
RJ, which was the one you didn't want, privet? Was that this one?
No, that wasn't this one. That was one of the
Oh,
last ones.
92. Yeah, 92.
Or no, it was Quays. It was 39 Quays was the private one. Not
Okay.
this one.
We haven't gotten to that one yet.
Okay. All right, I can't see anything below additional findings.
The screen's only so big, so I'll run you through them. So this is for the removal of a couple derelict core fiber rolls and just to plant beach grass. Just our 2 standard conditions. Our standard planting shall be native species with no cultivars, yearly monitoring report. When that report is due, and that no fertilizer or other agricultural chemicals shall be applied within commission jurisdiction related to that. And then the waiver approval for that waiver against the project shall not have an adverse impact on bank height, stability, habitat, scenic view, and all that. That's it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Is there a time limit on this?
I mean, they do have 3 years to
3
get
years,
the
yeah.
project done. Is
No, I
With
meant
or-
from like seasonal. No?
No, I mean, we try to catch planting windows. Beach grass isn't something where there's a heritage approval that goes with this, and
Okay,
that would
that's
be
what I
there.
meant.
So so that time of year restriction would be in place related to heritage. And again, we would attach that letter in its entirety.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Joe
Second.
made the motion, and who seconded?
John?
John, okay, all those in favor? RJ,
Hi.
Joe,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
myself with Mike and Seth recused.
Thanks, Linda. All right. So now we have Third Point Holdings LLC, 39 Quays Road, SC 483806. And Jeff, you want to get this on the screen and give us an overview of that? This is another amended order of conditions request.
Yes. All right. So this is the one that I think Linda and RJ just had a little discussion about, so we may make some changes to this. So this was to update, again, the plan of record to the new plan of record that was provided. Kind of memorializing that the structures originally slated for removal will be renovated with the new septic system that's going in, and then the replacement of some of that garden area with dry laid stone patio. Again, the conditions are the same from before, but it sounds like we're gonna add, we'll do some live editing, that all plantings. I can spell. Would include the all plantings shall be native species with no cultivars allowed. That's a condition 21.
Let's add the no agricultural chemicals or fertilizer. We're doing that. Anything else for commissioners? Okay. If not, is there a motion to approve and issue the amended order of conditions request as amended?
So moved.
Second,
John and Linda for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plendowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And we'll pop back up to Pop's Lane.
Yeah, I have not done a good job of digging out those standard conditions for the pool, the ones you had in. I know there's the time of year restrictions for chemical treatments and some other stuff.
Okay.
So I may just ask that, we have 21 days to issue it, so we may just carry that forward knowing that we want to add those conditions onto that order of conditions, and we can
That's
just
fine,
deal with
yeah.
it at the next meeting. So
The
I'm not
next
sitting
meeting
here
is-
forever.
The next meeting is 21 days from now, so we do have to make sure that we have everything buttoned up for that, but we should be good.
Yep.
We need 4 signatures, but we
Well, we would
have,
have those 4, if anyone else misses,
we
or,
have 5 people. Yeah.
yeah, we should be fine. I can continue to look if we want to.
No, it's fine. I mean, he can also sign digitally if it's really bad, but we'll figure it out. All right, so we'll revisit Pops Lane Holding the 23rd. And with that, I believe we have done all of our orders of conditions and amended orders of conditions. So we'll move on to request for a determination of applicability. We have one for delineation only.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
with your permission, I'd like to take a brief break.
sure. How many, 5 minutes or how much? 1 minute, go ahead.
Did we do 92?
92 has not closed.
Oh, that's right. I didn't have it marked. I had it marked above it, but not here.
I marked it as continued on my sheet.
It was continued.
I don't keep
Yeah, it's
records for you
continued.
individually. It's not my
I
job.
I just marked it. I marked it up when we first heard it and I didn't mark it down here.
Yourself.
It was absolutely continued.
Yes.
Yep.
You guys don't have to, well, it's good to know, but I'm keeping track here. That's my job.
Here, ready, Arjun? See, I have plenty of notes for myself. If I had to keep track of all 7 of you
You're-
guys in your notes, not enough money in the world for me to
That's
take that
right, yeah.
job.
You don't have to worry about it. That's my job here.
And if it gets really confusing and monkeyed up, we can always, review the tape later too. It's been known to
No, I'm
happen.
not gonna revisit these meetings. I don't review the HDC tapes either. I just soon flush myself down the toilet than do that.
All right, let's keep it civil here. We're still in a publicly recorded government meeting.
Totally getting that sound clip.
You're good.
That's it. That means you're on snacks next time. Real snacks.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the RDAs. We have one for delineation only, which is Burke at 31 Baxter Road, represented by Brian Madden. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you very much. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC. So this is confirming the resource area boundaries. There's a coastal dune that's present along the easterly portion of the property, shown on the site plan. Flood zone, the velocity zones located further to the east off-site within the coastal dune system here. No coastal bank present based on the local regulations and the DEP policy. So it's only the coastal dune boundary to seek approval, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Jeff, have you or another member of your staff been out to the site, and do you have a recommendation for us?
Yes, we're recommending a positive 2A confirming the resource area boundary.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Would somebody like to make a motion to issue the RDA with a positive 2A designation?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, everyone's got to sign that.
Move on to minor modifications. Our first is Dream North LLC at 28 Shimma Pond Road. And this is represented by David Haynes.
Good evening, all. This is a request for a minor modification of permit that was issued last fall under the old regulations. And it is typically for a reconfiguration, excuse me, this is 28 Ship Pond Road, just right. I didn't see it on the agenda, so I want to make sure I'm on the right property.
Yes.
Excuse me, thank you. And this is a slight reconfiguration, approved, or not existing, but an approved retaining wall to accommodate slightly larger seating area around a sport court. One thing, it's all outside of 50. It's all farther away than what was approved. It meets the regulations at the time. And also, I feel would meet the regulations now. It is like 75 feet, but everything inside of 50 is being maintained and natural vegetation. One other thing that I just noticed that I hadn't included in this is the drainage structure coming from the sport court. It's outside of 50. It's all underground. It's a pipe that's to pick up the drainage. I believe that was in the order of conditions. It was required not to have it controlled, and so that it would be all below grade down to an infiltration chamber. But everything is outside of 50, farther away than what was approved. All other work remains the same.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Shimma Pond, yeah. If not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve and issue the minor modification?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll move on to Pocomo LLC at 61 Pocomo Road, SE 483801, also represented by David Haynes. David, go ahead.
Good afternoon. This also is a project that was approved last fall, so it is under the old regulations. However, I also feel that this would meet with the amount of undisturbed vegetation left on the site inside the buffer zone. I feel it would probably qualify for your 75-foot mitigating measures. It is basically an infilling of building a deck between the house and there is a hot tub spa that was approved, and this is infilling it between there and there. There will be a crawl space underneath it and a slab at grade to put mechanicals in there, but nothing is any closer than what was originally approved. And it's all over existing lawn and adjacent to what was approved. I feel that it would qualify for a minor modification.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve and issue the minor modification?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, John and Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll move on.
Thank you.
We'll move on to certificates of compliance. First is Zalduondo, 13 Cliff Road. It's an old permit, SC 48, 1362. Jeff, are you taking this for us?
Yes, I'm actually going to take a bunch of these. So this is one where work never occurred, and they're just asking to invalidate that order of conditions, and that's our recommendation.
Sounds good. Is there a motion to invalidate the order?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you both. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Artie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brin,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Next is Glen Bay LLC, 33 Nonantum, SC 48, 3755, represented by Art Gasparo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for an aluminum set of beach stairs, which was installed.
We agree, and we would agree that they're in compliance.
Okay,
And they're not in need of any additional conditions or ongoing conditions.
sounds good. Is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with no ongoing conditions?
So moved. Second.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brin,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. And now we have 36B Lily Street, represented by Brian Madden.
Thank you very much. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC representing the applicant. This was an order for construction of a single-family home and reno relocation of existing structure. If you remember, I was back before the commission in early August for a minor modification, which was granted. And one of the outstanding elements to address was the conversion of a gravel turnout to what was originally approved, which was a reinforced grass driveway. That was completed and the grass is all starting to germinate. I included a photograph, so everything is in substantial compliance with the order of conditions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Jeff, have you been out to the site and do you have a recommendation for us?
Yeah, I actually went to this one just because I remember the history of this site. So
I remember as well as.
I do. I would recommend, let me pull out my cheat sheet here.
Ongoing
Some
conditions.
ongoing conditions, just to memorialize a couple of them. 20, 21, and 22. 20 is the no fertilizer or other agricultural chemicals are allowed within the 50-foot buffer zone. And then 21 and 22 go together. I only highlighted those because I know we're still waiting on that stuff. The grass is germinating, things are there, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to keep or take. So I left 21 and 22 for any of the plantings to be native species with cultivars, and then some reporting on those species too, just to make sure that they do take.
Is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions 20, 21, and 22?
So moved.
Thank you, RJ. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr.
you.
Chair, if I can interrupt quickly, the next two you can do together because they're both to
I was
invalidate.
planning on it.
Okay.
We have two for 64 Baxter Road Realty Trust, which is located at 63 Baxter Road. The permit numbers are SC 48, 1477, and 3521. Are you doing this, Jeff?
Yep. Yeah, Jeff couldn't be with us tonight. The first order, 1477, is expired and no work took place. And then the other one that's more recent, no work has taken place, and they're just seeking to invalidate both of those orders.
Okay. Is there a motion to invalidate both the orders, SC 48, 1477, and SC 48, 3521?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, both. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Planowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. Those both carry unanimously. Before we go to extension requests, I'm realizing that I made an error. We need to go back to public hearing all the way up to section A, notice of intent, no waiver required, because we need to accept a withdrawal of the Nantucket Islands Land Bank Smooth Hummocks Way SC 48 3893. Is there a motion to accept the withdrawal of that project?
So
So
moved,
moved.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Linda and Mike, by roll call vote. Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That is successfully withdrawn. We'll go back to the public meeting now, and we'll go to extension requests, which we have a few of. The first is Kolb at 27 North Liberty Street, SC 48 3595, represented by Kolb. Is that person here?
No, so I'll handle it. So it was a request for the extension for 3595 that was slated to expire in early December of this year. They have started work on that project, not tons, but they have begun, and they've requested a 3-year extension.
Okay. Is there a motion to issue the extension request for the 3 1-year extensions?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Thank you, Tim and Linda. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Then we have 2 for Boathouse Realty Trust, which is at 52 Warren's Landing Road. The permit numbers are 3579 and 3634. Jeff, are you doing this too?
Yes. So just to run through, I'll do them one at a time, but we can vote on them together. I just want to run through some details. The first one is a project, they did file it on time. It's slated to expire a month from now, amazingly to the day. So November 2nd, 2022 to 2025. They're only seeking a 1-year extension for that project to finish up some construction. And then the second order of conditions is a project that's underway. They asked if they could file it at the same time. It's a touch earlier than what we normally take them. They were set to expire in April of 2026, but they said they were coming in to do the one, so we didn't mind. They're only seeking a 1-year extension on that to April of 2027 for that second order.
Yeah, both of these are probably subject to the Mass Leads Act anyway, but
Yeah.
if they want to seek the extensions now, they can, so.
Yeah. So we're recommending those 2 1-year extensions.
Okay, commissioners, is there a motion to issue the 1-year extension for SC 48 3579 and the 1-year extension for SC 48 3634?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. By roll call vote, Mike Mizzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. Other business. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Thank you to the compilers of the minutes. We have June 26th, 2025 and July 10th, 2025. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review those minutes? And if you have, are there any additions, changes?
I did review the ones for June and I provided comments on it. There were a number of instances where I was voting but not sitting, making motions and not sitting. So all that got tossed in. I assume that's done. I have not read the July 10th ones. They must have just come out because I've been working on this thing the last couple days.
Okay. Jeff, do you have the additions that Joe was talking about?
I'll fully fess up. I'm sure we've received them.
We can hold it over.
I would just say, let's just hold these over to the 23rd. And we can confirm
Let's
that's
hold the
correct.
minutes sets, both minutes for the 26, 26, and 7/10 to the meeting at October 23rd.
I apologize. I got tagged into the meeting at like 3 o'clock today, so.
That's fine.
Prioritize the
Report,
filings.
monitoring reports, I don't believe we have any, but if, as always, if you do and commissioners have questions, feel free to direct them to the staff. Enforcement act, or committee reports, correct?
No, nothing new.
CPC?
Yeah, we had our first round of applicant grants come before the committee and went pretty well, but we've got a lot of asks this year, so I don't know how we're going to dole it out, but we have 2 more rounds to go, I think. So, moving along.
And NEDC?
We had a meeting on Monday, the 29th, where it was announced that Jeff Carlson has been appointed to the Ocean Management Committee by Governor Healy. Congratulations, Jeff.
Congrats,
Work
Jeff.
to do.
Holly Backus was the speaker, guest speaker, discussing historic preservation on Nantucket, and of course that was very interesting. Mike Burns' transportation update, and updated Nantucket boundary maps. That was the extent of the meeting.
Okay. Harbor plan?
Getting there. We had some stuff came up. We didn't have a full board. We had several, but we were still missing a few. The last meeting, we have another meeting coming up, and there were some things that had to be changed. So we're still tinkering, but we're getting there.
Thank you. Enforcement actions and potential enforcement actions. I see we have 14 Plover Lane on our agenda. I don't believe we need to discuss it. It should be done.
No, we don't have anything we need to discuss on that.
Get rid of that. Is there any new and emerging enforcement actions that staff would like to bring to our attention?
One that we'll probably issue out, we were contacted by the folks at, and I apologize for not getting the number, and I just did a site inspection on it yesterday. The house at the end of Mothball Way that was getting close, they're going to be removing that from the site. They do have an open order to move it on site, but they're not going to waste the resources to do that. I can't say they did start, they have, for all intents and purposes, gutted the interior of the house already. We're waiting to get some info from the building department, and we'll have that paperwork ready. So we might have that to ratify at the next meeting, but we may issue that out in advance just to get that house. But the closest corner of that deck to the top of the bank is well under 10 feet now. So it's,
So that would be an emergency permit though, not an.
oh, sorry, an emergency permit,
That's
yes.
fine, yeah, no worries. Okay, anything else in enforcement area?
Nope.
Mike, do you want to talk about Summer House?
Under commissioners' comments?
Sure.
Or, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, so,
Well, yeah, we'll move on to commissioners' comments, I guess.
And
okay,
I'm
so,
recused from that. I'm recused from any discussion on this.
It's not a discussion of the order, it's a general comment, so go ahead.
so my general comment is, it's been continued for a long time now, over a year. And I know we have an option to move for enforcement there. I know there's been some circumstances why they continued, but it's been going on, and I think it just needs to be dealt with at this point.
So we can't do anything right now. I agree that it seems like there's delay tactics being used. So we have the following resources available to us. Obviously, there's an open notice of intent, but if that keeps getting continued and the site is still in violation, we also have an open enforcement order that could be amended, or a new enforcement order can be issued. So if you would like to direct this staff or this commission to look into those opportunities for next meeting and list this on the agenda, we could talk about it at the next meeting.
Yes, I would respectfully request that we take staff's recommendation on either a new enforcement order or acting on the prior enforcement order.
Okay.
I agree with those comments, Mike, because I raised that issue at least once before. It's a delaying tactic in my mind.
All right, let's hold off on any further testimony until it's actually on the agenda. Go
We
ahead.
can definitely do that. We'll list it separately on the agenda for at least a discussion of some kind, even if the notice isn't going to go forward.
Sounds good. Other commissioners' comments? Okay, I have one. So it's clear that after the events of the last meeting, there was some disagreement about how the commission acted and how staff viewed that action. I don't want to get into the emotions of that. I think there was, unfortunate circumstances on both behalf, but it is important to remind the commission how our structure works here. The Conservation Commission doesn't report to the Natural Resources Department staff, and the Natural Resources Department staff does not report to us. The Natural Resources Department staff is there to serve in an advisory role to this commission. If we don't like what they have to say, we completely ignore them. Even town council, if we don't like what he has to say or they have to say, we completely ignore them. We should not do that if we can. We should endeavor to be civil and to work together, because that's how we're going to actually have progress in this commission. We are very lucky in this commission to have not only just one staff, but a whole robust fleet of staff. There's 351 municipalities in the state. Not everyone has a commission, but very few of the conservation commissions in the state of Massachusetts have staff assisting them. Most of them, commissioners are doing it all themselves, taking the applications, writing the agenda, doing the site visits, issuing the permits, filing everything. I'm very glad that we don't have to do that. However, there's no need to have animosity between this organization and that organization. There's no need to threaten corrective action or anything like that. When we decided to apply for appointment to this board, we applied to the select board, and the select board decided to appoint us, and each one of us took a oath of office before the town clerk and signed an ethics statement and a committee handbook statement. That's what we need to adhere to. If people have disagreements about ways that meetings went or ways that actions went, I'm sorry, and it's unfortunate that that sometimes happens. But our utmost goal is to act ethically, legally, and jurisdictionally within the regulations that we have been given authority to authorize. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you all. I know it's a difficult situation, but let's just all move on and know that there's going to be times when you butt heads with people or with situations. But if you're doing it because you are acting in the spirit of the regulations, you should do so. You should not be talked down into not acting, because that is our role. Thank you. Any other commissioners' comments?
Relative to just what you said,
Go ahead, sure.
yeah, my comment would be, it was an unpleasant meeting, but the thing that stuck in my mind all the way through that was, you were reading right out of the regulations, and we follow the regulations. If we don't do that, we'll be really screwed.
Thank you, Joe.
So from that standpoint, I have to be on your side.
Thank you, Joe. There's no sides here. We're all trying to we're all trying to achieve the same outcome, and we're all trying to serve the town. But there are sometimes situations that are unpleasant and that are going to cause animosity. But if you're acting according to the regulations and the ethics that you took an oath of office to do, you shouldn't be told not to do that.
Madam
Mike, go
Secretary.
ahead.
I'm just going to say, I didn't think it was particularly unpleasant. It was just procedural, and we found a way to move on from it with hopefully a meeting with town council. So we're just moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jeff, do you have any staff reports?
Nope. All
right.
good.
Thanks for helping us out and stepping in today. At this time, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
You got it from me.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, by roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Please come and get apples.
Yeah, get apples.
Stop recording.